Hello, creators, and welcome to Rediscovering Be Something Wonderful, where we revisit timeless classics from deep within our video archives. What you're about to hear goes straight to the heart of Neville Goddard's teachings on living from the end of your prayers already answered, and why so many misunderstand it. Because this was never about trying to feel something, forcing belief, or waiting for reality to change. Neville taught something far simpler and infinitely more powerful. Go to the end and stay there. This message reveals why the feeling of wish fulfilled was never about emotion, but about already being that which you desire to be. Because the moment you move to the end, the moment you live as the one who already has it and is it, there is nothing left to get, fix, or wait for. From that moment, reality has no choice but to reflect what you are. Now, let's open the vault once again and rediscover why manifesting was always natural and effortless. Welcome back to Be Something Wonderful. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Creators, welcome back. I heard from one of you who said, Tom, I'm a new subscriber, and I just discovered you and Neville Goddard, the teachings of Neville Goddard. And I've prayed a lot for my life to get better. And now recently I've been imagining my prayers, that my prayers have been answered or my wish has been fulfilled. But still my life is not improving. I just thought if you could talk about that. And how do I pray? Or how do I feel that feeling that I already have what I want? Well, guys, we're going to unpack this today and more. Here's the thing, and so we're going to start a little bit with Neville Goddard, then we're going to move into some other teachings by Greg Braden as well. And here's really what I want to say, though, is that this feeling of wish fulfilled, remember, feelings is what feels true to you, right? You believe your feelings, right? You had a thought about something, and then you imbued that thought with emotion, either fear or love, right? There's only love, but if you're imbuing that thought with something that's not love, then it's fear. And then you create a feeling about it. And then we start believing that. And that feeling, that thought plus emotion becomes a belief, right? We've thought so much about it and we've felt so much emotion with it that we believe it's true. And this is your freedom. This is how you shift now to feeling to thinking and feeling the emotion of what you want to be true. So guys, let's unpack this today like we never have before. So Neville Goddard says, live in the answer. And I love that. It's about living in the end, right? But live in the answer. So when you're trying to solve a problem, hear this, you're resisting the answer. That's big. Right? When you're trying to solve your life or heal yourself or your focus is on any problem, you're resisting the solution. Your focus is on that 0.0001% of physical manifested reality, right? And not only that, you're judging that reality as something unwanted, as something not good, right? Sometimes you're judging things as good. Sometimes it's bad, but either way, you're judging that reality. You're judging the problem. That keeps you cut off from that 99.99999% of unseen reality where the answer is. Although you're never cut off. You just don't see it. You can't see it, perceive it, or receive the answer while you're in the problem. Right? Well, you've got to live in the answer, right? You believe in the reality of that problem. Therefore, you can't see or perceive the answer. Right? It's your belief that that's true, right? You've thought about something so much and attached emotion to those thoughts that they've become a belief, a feeling of what's true. That's big. Let's unpack this a little bit more. And this is what Neville says. Prayer is the art of assuming the feeling of being and having that which you want. He says feeling is the prayer. Feeling as if your prayers have already been answered. Feeling is believing, and believing is feeling. It's the feeling of wish fulfilled that becomes a conviction. It becomes your truth. But how do we get there? Well, let's unpack this a little bit more. So, remember, belief is just a thought that you have thought a lot about. So much so, hear this, so much so that you believe it to be true. More importantly than that, you feel it to be true. Wow. That's the feeling we're talking about. Right? Doesn't matter if you judge it good or bad. You're feeling something to be true. You're believing it to be true. But more important than believing it to be true, you're feeling it to be true. What you feel, you believe is true. That's where beliefs come from. You feel it, right? This is what Greg Braden says. An experience that happens in both our minds and bodies. That's what a belief is. It's an experience. It's a thought that you've thought about so long that it's become a feeling or an emotional experience in your body, right? It's certainty that comes from accepting what you think is true in our minds, coupled with what we feel is true in our hearts, right? And we're going to talk about this, how thought plus emotions, either love or fear, creates the feelings that we're feeling. And we're going to get to this in a second. I just want to go back to this because this is a good start for us. An experience that happens in both our minds and bodies. Certainty, it's a conviction that comes from accepting what we think is true in our minds, coupled with what we feel is true in our hearts. How do we create, where does that feeling come from then? We know that we thought it. And then we started feeling it, but how is that? Well, it comes from emotions. And love is the only emotion, but when you're feeling anything other than love, then you're feeling something about that you're feeling a fearful emotion. When you align that fearful emotion with that thought, that creates the feeling. That feeling then becomes something you believe to be true. That's big. Let's unpack this a little bit more. Thoughts, feelings, and emotions form the inner experience that creates your reality. They create your inner reality. How? We're going to show you in a second. The belief that what you desire or want is done. That's the feeling of wish fulfilled. It's a belief that what you want or desire, it's done. It's a belief. It's a conviction. But it is a feeling. It's a thought that's been imbued with either fear or love. In this case, if it's wish fulfilled, it's been imbued with loving thoughts or with loving emotions. It becomes a feeling of done, fulfilled. Thought plus emotion equals feelings and beliefs. Right? They're almost the same. But you feel your beliefs. Right? You ever ask someone what they believe in? There's a lot of feeling involved. There's a lot of emotion. So, and there's only two emotions, and there's really only one. There's love. But the opposite of that would be fear, or something that's unlike love. So you're either imbuing these thoughts or charging these thoughts with either love or fear, which creates feelings and what you believe to be true about yourself and about your reality. And remember, thoughts and emotions carry electromagnetic energy, right? So, and everything's energy. So that's how it works. It attracts other thoughts, other realities like that energy. So Greg Braden says here, he says, here's a belief expressed. Belief is expressed in the heart, where our experiences are translated, hear this, into electrical and magnetic waves that interact with the physical world. Or in other words, that even create the physical world, right? Belief is expressed in the heart, where our experiences are translated into electrical and magnetic waves that interact with the physical world, right? That electromagnetic power of your thoughts and feelings, your thoughts and emotions, that's what creates your reality, right? So let's unpack this a little bit more. And then what he talks about is the chakras. This is the teachings of Greg Braden. I will leave some links. Chakras refer to the energy centers of the body, right? The Sanskrit meaning of chakra means spinning wheels of energy, right? And we're not going to go into this in detail, but I just want to demonstrate that you have the three upper upper chakras or energy centers, right? They call the crown, the third eye, and the throat chakra, right? And then you have the bottom three, the solar plexus, the sacral, and the root, right? These lower three chakras are associated with emotion. These top three are associated with communication and thought, right? When those are joined, they create the heartfelt feelings that you feel, that you translate. You translate your thoughts plus emotion into feelings. It's all pure positive energy, right? But then as it joins thought, then you put it through the filter of your thoughts. And then you create feelings of either love or joy, or frustration or fear, right? So there's really only two basic emotions, right? And there's either and there's only really one, love, but the absence of love is fear. And all of the feelings, right? There's only two basic emotions, but there's infinite number of labels that you put to the feelings when you feel that emotion. When you unite that thought plus the emotion, you create the feelings in your body or what you believe. Wow, that's powerful, right? So here's Braden talking about emotion. Love and its opposite are really two aspects of the same thing. Two polarities of the same force. That's emotion. That's that energy in motion, right? It's that pure positive energy in motion. Thoughts are associated with the top three chakras or energy centers, right? Thoughts have the power of intention that direct, guide, and focus your emotional energy where it springs from. Thoughts are powerless unless you believe in them with feeling. So the thought, without the emotion, right? Without the charge, without you believing them, in other words, right? You believe them because you feel them. Do you hear this? We believe what we feel, right? And you believe them because you feel them. This is the key to feeling the wish fulfilled, right? Thoughts are associated with the top three. Thoughts have the power of intention that direct, guide, and focus your emotional energy where the idea springs from, right? Thoughts are powerless unless you believe them with feeling. Right? Unless you imbue them with either love or fear. And what do we normally do? We imbue our thoughts with fear or lack or in other words, frustration, disbelief, right? This is big, so let's unpack this a little bit more. A thought without emotion, or in other words, not believed, hear this, right? We don't believe what we don't feel. Well, that doesn't have an emotional charge. So a thought without emotion is just a thought. It has no power, right? It only has power when you believe it. When you believe it, nothing's true unless you say so, right? Nothing is believable unless you believe it. Hear this, right? And here are those energy centers again. So this is where Braden explains how thought and emotion join to create the feeling or the belief, right? Here are the top three energy centers or chakras, right? That's where the thought comes from. And here's the bottom three energy centers or chakras. That's where the emotion comes from. An emotion either based in love or fear, or love in the absence of love, whatever that is, right? We call it fear, but you could call it whatever you want, right? Everything's always pure positive energy. But it's until we put it through a filter of thought that it creates a feeling of something else than love. Do you hear this, right? The unity of what you think with the energy of emotion, what you love or fear, creates the feeling of either fulfillment or non-fulfillment. Hear this. This is the explanation of wish fulfilled. That's the feeling of fulfillment. When you have a thought that is then imbued with the emotion of love. That creates a heart, this is the heart chakra, that heart-based feeling or belief. You believe things from the heart. That's why people use that expression. Why do they say that? Because it's your thoughts joining with your emotion, right? Either love or fear, that creates a heart-based feeling or a heart-based belief. Wow, that's powerful. Remember, the heart is powerful. That electrical magnetic energy is 60 times more powerful than the brain, right? The thought's powerful, but without the emotion, it's powerless. Without the belief, is powerless, right? What the unity of what you think with the energy of emotion, what you love or fear, creates the feeling of either fulfillment or non-fulfillment, of either love or the opposite of love, whatever that is, fear in this case, right? Fulfillment or non-fulfillment, right? Love, feelings of love, emotions of love is gratitude, joy, and love. Those are those feelings when you match it, when you unify it with a feeling, an emotion from loving emotions, right? Or there's fear, there's wanting, frustration, lack, right? If you have a thought and then your emotion is based in fear of wanting, frustration, lack, impatience, right? Irritation, all of that, then you create a feeling or belief of that lack, of that frustration. Do you hear this? It's either love or the absence of that. It's either fulfillment or the absence of fulfillment that we call non-fulfillment or fear. That's big. So let's unpack this a little bit more. So, and then Braden also points out where compassion fits in, right? Compassion we often think of as an emotion, right? And it is an emotion in many ways, but it's more than that. As he talked to when he went and visited Tibet and he visited the monks and asked them the question that what connects it all? What connects that feeling to the universe and all that is? To that God energy, to everything there is, was, or ever be. What's the connector? And the monk said it's compassion. Compassion is rooted in the emotion of love, right? Think of compassion. It's the ability to feel without the judgment, the condemnation, or the bias. Hear this. Especially where we want something and we desire something, really, really want something. Either we want to heal someone, or we want to heal somebody else, or we just want our desire. We don't want to be in poverty anymore. We don't want to be poor, or we really want a house, or we really want a special person in our life. Whatever it is, it's the ability to feel without all that judgment, condemnation, or biased, right? Because everything else, that desiring of it, that wanting, that feeling the lack, is you judging somehow that the current 3D reality or the present moment is not good enough. And that's the judgment is what's keeping it away, right? So the compassion is an important piece. This is what Braden says. Compassion is both a force in the universe as well as a human experience. So powerful. It connects us to everything in the universe as well as the quality that makes our feelings and emotions so powerful. Compassion moves you to that feeling of fulfillment, right? This is the lost secret to creating your own reality. And I'm going to unpack this a little bit more. And Braden talks about these secrets that were discovered, right? And they were the result of edits that they did. They were biblical edits of the 4th century. And the Lost Gospel of Thomas reveals some of those secrets. And we're going to talk about some of this today. So the Lost Gospel of Thomas, these are the lost teachings that were found now. They're not lost anymore, right? That were, and they were not included in the modern Bible that you see today. You do not see these, right? But as you read this, it's really a metaphysical description of a lot of what Jesus is saying. It's a clearer, crisper, metaphysical translation of the teachings of Jesus, right? The Lost Gospel of Thomas, this is the teachings that were eliminated from the Bible. Here's saying 106, right? I think it's 114 sayings. This is big, and this is talking about the idea of joining thought plus emotion to create the feeling within that you already are that which you want to be, that you already have that which you want, that your prayer is already answered, right? When you make the two one, when you say mountain move away, it will move away. Here Jesus was pointing to the idea, when you make the two one, what are the two? It's thought plus emotion. It creates the feeling. And then when you get that feeling, you move into the reality where your prayer is answered. You move into the reality where your wish is fulfilled. In other words, you move into the reality where the mountain isn't there. That's so big, right? This is the whole idea of alternative realities, right? Of creating your reality, creating your universe, right? When you unite thought and feeling into one single powerful force, you create reality and bend time and space. You unite the heart and mind. Do you hear this? You're basically joining thought and feeling, but thought and emotion that creates the feeling, right? Into one single powerful force, you create reality and bend time. You call forth a new quantum possibility out of an infinite number of quantum potentials and possibilities, right? When two, thought and emotion, become one in our hearts, right? In that, remember, when the top three chakras are the thought and the communication, the bottom three are emotion. When those are created and joined together within the center, the heart center, that center, then they become one in our hearts and we create the feelings in our bodies. That's powerful. We feel it as true. We feel it as a belief, right? This is big. So, and then also, again, Jesus points to it again in saying 48 in the Gospel of Thomas. If the two make peace with each other in this one house, your inner world, that's the house. You are the house, right? Your consciousness, within your imagination, right? It's your imagination. When you imagine your wish fulfilled, when those two, what are the two? Thought plus emotion. When those join, when those are made as one, they say to the mountain, move away, and it will move away again. As thought plus emotion creates puts you in the state of wish fulfilled, you move to it, right? You move to the reality where it's fulfilled, where the reality where your prayer is answered, right? How do you do it then? So let's talk about this, because this is what was lost in the biblical edits of the 4th century. We're going to go to John 16, 23 and 24. You're probably very familiar with this quote, this verse in Scripture. We're gonna talk about it and then look at what the missing pieces that were discovered. This gives you the secret. This gives you the metaphysical secret to what Neville Goddard his teachings were pointing to in other spiritual teachers, right? Well, how do you do it? Creating the feeling in our heart as if the prayer is already answered, that creates the electrical and magnetic waves that bring the answer to you. Hear this again. Prayer answered, right? You're creating the feeling in your heart, right? By thought, and by joining thought and emotion, creating the feeling in your heart as if the prayer is already answered. That creates the electrical and magnetic waves that bring the answer to you. That's how to live in the answer, as Neville said, right? Live in the answer. That puts you in the answer. You're feeling it as real, right? That, remember that your brain plus your heart, those thoughts, plus your emotions, right? Those create those electrical magnetic attractors, right? That bring you, that move you to the reality where your dreams come true, where your wish is fulfilled, right? The original Aramaic text of the Bible before the edits, this is John 16, 23 through 24, reveals the secret. Let's unpack this. So, in John 16, 23 through 24, here's the King James Version. This is the Bible as it is today. Whatsoever you ask the Father in my name, he will give it to you. Hitherto, to have ye asked nothing in my name. Ask and you shall receive, that your joy may be full. It's pretty clear, but they don't tell us. Jesus doesn't tell us here how we ask. The secret's not revealed in the modern Bible, how we ask, right? Missing from this edit, from this version, are the two sentences that tell us how you ask. And Jesus reveals this in this lost Gospel of Thomas. The new translation of the original Aramaic version shows the missing key to how to ask and pray for what you desire. This is so big. Let's look at it. So it begins similar, right? It begins similar, John 16, 23 and 24 in this version. But even the wording is a little different. Even what is similar is a little different, right? All things that you ask straightly, directly from inside my name, you will be given. So far, you have not done this. Now, I love this opening, right? Look at this, straightly, directly from inside my name. Hear the wording here, within. It's that Christ within, it's your imagination, right? It's that power within you. You ask inside my name, inside my name. Remember, Jesus represents your imagination or that world within you, right? It will be given. But so far, you haven't done this. You're just pleading or asking with words. What was Jesus putting at there? You haven't married thought plus emotion to create the feeling of fulfillment that it's already yours, that your prayers have already been answered. That's how you ask, right? And here's more. This is the missing text, right? This is the stuff that was edited out. Ask without hidden motive, and be surrounded by your answer. Be enveloped by what you desire, that your gladness may be full. That's powerful. Hear this. I want to get to hidden motive in a second, but let's go to this. Surrounded by your answer. This is what Neville Goddard was talking about, right? It's not talking about speaking and pleading. Rather, it's to be surrounded by the feeling of wish fulfilled. Be surrounded as if your prayer has already been answered. Be surrounded by the answer. Be surrounded by it's already done. It's already yours. Be enveloped by your wish already fulfilled. Thought and emotion become one, and then you feel the love of that thought. Think of it that way. As your thought and emotion join, you create the feeling of that loving thought. Or if it's a fearful thought, right? Or it's a thought where you imbue with fear, then it becomes a fearful thought, right? A fearful feeling. That's powerful. So let's go back to motive again. Ask without hidden motive. This is where we get to the idea of compassion. What does that mean? It means ask without judgment. Ask without attachment to the outcome. Ask without judging anything as good or bad or right or wrong. Ask without the 3D ego. Ask from the heart. Right? Your heart's not going to judge it. You're not going to judge it, but you're asking from an ego state of mind where you're worried about the outcome, or maybe I won't get it, and all those thoughts, right? That's what Jesus was saying there. Ask without hidden motive. This was not in the original John 16, 23, 24. I mean, it wasn't in the Bible as it is today. It was in the original text, but those have been edited out. But that's powerful. Ask without judgment, without attachment, without judging anything as good or bad, right? And then Braden gives us the example that I've talked about in other videos. He witnessed, well, he saw a video. I'm not sure he was there in the room. I'd have to check that. But he talks about a miraculous healing in a non-medical hospital in Beijing. And there were 3 non-medical doctors standing over a woman who had a cancerous tumor. And so what did they do? How did they heal this tumor? Well, it wasn't by judging the tumor. It wasn't by saying, oh man, that tumor's bad and it shouldn't be there. They accepted the tumor. They didn't judge it. They accepted it as one quantum possibility out of a quantum field of infinite possibilities. They asked without hidden motive, right? They accepted the cancer as it was without hidden motive, without judgment. Then they chose or called forth the feeling of that new reality, right? They joined their thought plus that emotion of love. They imbued it with love, right? Without the motive, without the hidden motive, without the judgment, without the attachment to the outcome, right? Without judging anything as good or bad or right or wrong. And then they called forth their choice, right? The healed tumor, the woman without the cancerous tumor. And then it shows a clip where it was like 3 or 4 minutes where the thing shrank down. That's on YouTube. I'll try to find a link for you. But guys, that is how to live in the feeling of answered prayer. That's what Neville Goddard was pointing to. I am your host, Tom Kearin, and this is the Be Something Wonderful studio of higher consciousness, where we help you level up and become the best version of yourself. Don't forget to subscribe, hit the notification button, like and share our videos. That's how we get our message out. You can follow us at Facebook at Be Something Wonderful, on Instagram and Twitter at Tom Kearin. You can visit our website at tomkearin.com or besomethingwonderful.com. With great love, infinite gratitude, and infinite light, we'll see you soon.